It's time for your Talk Time Live exclusive.
You are now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge.
Folks, returning to Talk Time Live is one of my favorite guests to actually always find out what's going on in his world, because there's always something to surprise me with. He is are you still the executive producer of Ghost Power Book 2?
I am not.
So you were season 1, correct?
Season one.
Okay. So you are the co-executive producer of the hit drama series Power Book 2, Ghost, starring Michael Rainey Jr., Method Man, and Mary J. Blige. And I will say, if not for your season 1, there will be no season 4.
Hey, I love those guys. If they did nothing for me, first of all,
well, let me get my introduction over before we go.
Go.
Because your resume, your IMDb is too long. So, he's also the showrunner. He was also the showrunner for the animated series Avengers: Panther's Quest, now on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Wrote for other great animated and live-action series such as Ultimate Spider-Man, Avengers Assembled, Magnum PI, and The Librarians, just to name a few. His comic book writing credits also include Green Lantern, Marvel Comics Mosaic, which he created, Solo, one of my favorites for Marvel now, Milestone Media's The Blood Syndicate, which is really one of my favorites, as well as his own production, The Winterman Project, which includes Red Jack, the animated short. He is Geoffrey Thorne, here to talk about his latest work on the new X-Force series for Marvel right now. And I'm looking forward to talking about this. Jeff, welcome back to Talk to 'em Live exclusive.
I love talking to you, Dax. I love talking to you. We always have this.
You just love me to do the introductions because it gets longer every single time we talk.
It's just a regular conversation with you, whereas a lot of these, I'm trying to limit my interviews, if you want to call them that, down to people where it just feels like I'm talking, where we're just talking about stuff.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when I'm listening to other people's interviews, those are the ones that I get the most out of, where they just sound like a real person talking to another real person about real stuff.
Right.
So,
that's the vibe that I always wanted. And I think that's what I take pride in every time I interview a guest. And the fact that they, like yourself, come back on the show, because that's a testament of, you're like, you are still probably the lead, most leading person to be on the show, but you got some runner-ups. There's some runner-ups that's been on like 5 times as well.
You need to get your game better, man. If I'm the biggest guest, you need to get your game up.
No, I wouldn't say I said the biggest guest. I would say the most in terms of quantity.
Oh, I see. I come back the most. But I like talking to you. If I didn't like talking to you, I wouldn't come back.
No, I'm gonna keep it real. It was also say quality too. Like I had some Emmy Award winners as well, and I had some, Grammy winners, and all sorts of people in our favorite fandoms. But I come back to you because you keep grinding, and it's an inspiration to people like me in our culture, in our community. And I need people to see that, we gotta, this is how you work hard to have fun. And who else better to talk to about working hard to have fun from our community than you?
That is true. That is true. I mean, it's an interesting thing because there's the big star, right? Like most people think about the celebrities as if they're defining the industry, right? Whatever the industry, it could be dance, it could be music, whatever it is. You think you're a giant star that gets the video. They just had the big VMAs and all that stuff. You think that's the job, but that's the exception. That's really the exception.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not I don't know that that's a goal you can work for. I think that's a goal that happens to you. I don't think you can really I'm going to be Beyonce. Damn it. Like, I don't think that's how it works. You can try, but Beyonce wasn't trying to be Beyonce.
You would only hope to be
Nobody
in that status.
Nobody could have pictured that. Right. So for me, it's like, do I get to keep writing for a living? And hopefully I get to work on stuff that I would watch or that I would read. Because that's kind of the sweet spot where if you're kind of in the audience of the thing, then you don't have to work as hard to make the thing because you're like, well, this is dope. I'm definitely watching this episode.
Right.
Or, especially if you're in a supervising position, if you're an EP where you're reading other people's scripts, that's executive producer or whatever. That means you're reading other people's scripts, not just writing your own. So when they give you a script and you're like, oh, I can't wait to see this. But you can't really do that unless you're a fan of the thing, whatever it is. So I feel like I've been very lucky that I would say 99% of the stuff I've worked on is stuff that I would have watched anyway. So, and I watch them I watched Ghost after I was off the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would I not? Like, that's a good show.
Well, that's actually, I'm glad you said that, because I mean, again, I have actors that have come on the show that has been in TV series or anime, series and stuff like that. They're like hundreds of episodes, but they always keep going to the next still. So they don't have time to actually look back always at that because they're in the next.
Yeah. I mean, I like stories. I think ultimately what it comes down to is I just like good stories and good storytellers. Right. So you will find we can't really tilt the camera, but you will find on my bookshelf a lot of different kinds of stuff that you would not expect a dude like me to have up there by looking at me.
Well, it's like hip hop. It's like when you do hip hop, it's like you listen to other lyricists and you kind of, like their vibe. You kind of pick up on things. You kind of learn your own craft. You G-Undo yourself into that, everything that you learn to create yours.
Hey, Bruce, the master.
There you go.
You know what? You mentioned Bruce Lee obliquely, but you mentioned it. His philosophy of be like water.
There you go.
At the heart as a very young man, and it has worked out.
I live like that. That was my. I have the Tao of G-Undo, and I bought that when I was in high school because I needed something. I wasn't always the angel that you see right now, and I needed something to bring a little bit more discipline in my life, especially when you don't have that positive support group. So I had to be my own responsibility, my own man, and I kind of picked up on Bruce's. Not to learn the techniques, to learn his philosophy, and blew me away, man.
Well, think about it like this: if you go with your gut, you got to teach yourself the difference between your insecurities and a gut feeling.
Absolutely
something you have to learn. But once you get over that hurdle and you can trust it, if something seems bad to you coming into it, don't do it. Yeah. There's going to be another bus. There's going to be another train. Like, I promise you, there will be another one.
I've done that. I've allowed my super ego to refuse certain situations, because my gut feeling and my critical thinking was kicking in. And it was like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, you got to be careful though. Like early on in your career, you're very desperate. You're very anxious. You got big eyes for every. What is it? You're open. Your nose is open, as we used to say.
I've learned.
and so you're both scared of everything and you're willing to try everything, and that's good and bad depending on what your surroundings are. You can get in some shady stuff too early, and you got a minute to climb out of it. But again, if you can get over that period where you start to figure out that little voice in your head that's telling you you're terrible is lying to you, then you get into, there are shady, what's that rule? What is that Tribe Called Quest? Industry rule 4080, music record
people company are shady.
You got to take that to the bank forever. But it's like, what can you handle and how shady are they? And your gut will tell you. Like, I just had a conversation with a buddy of mine who's getting a job, and he hasn't even got the job yet. And there's 2 different production companies that he's working with. And one of them is behaving not in a sexual or, HR kind of way, but they're behaving disrespectfully and inappropriately towards him. And in a way that I was like, they said, what? They did what? Right. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, have you even got paid yet? Is this deal even closed? And he's like, nope. And I was like, you probably shouldn't work with them. And he was like, why? And I was like, because if this is how they treat you when there's no money exchange,
right?
What are they going to be like when they're your boss?
I feel like they tested him.
I don't think so. I think that's just how they roll.
But that's how they roll. But like, if he's cool with it, it's inviting them to do more.
That's right, and it tells them what kind of person you are too.
It's like when I used to wear locks in corporate. You just wait for somebody to say something about your hair or try to touch your hair or do something before you like.
Okay.
Let me let you know. Let me remind you that I know my rights and I'm getting a lawyer on it.
Let me tell you, I had a boss when my first intern job in Hollywood was on the Star Trek show. Yeah. And I just showed up. This is back in the day, kids. So it was very, let's say baggy. Everything was baggy on the
90s.
Okay. Everything was baggy shirts, baggy pants. And I probably weighed about a whole other person less than I weigh right now. But I would go to work. I had my little big old cap on, whatever. And I thought I was just dressed to be outside. And at one point, one of the EPs took me aside and says, Jeff, you're not going to a club. And I was like, you think this is club wear? Like, this is is not clothing. This is just a brother chilling. And what it had been was when they met me before I got the job, before I even interviewed for the job,
Yeah.
I was dressed for something less casual.
Yeah.
Right. So they were like, "Oh, he's in sweats. He's come from the gym or something. You should interview for this job. You're smart and you know Star Trek, and you should come. You should, whatever." So, but when I showed up, I wore clothes. I wasn't coming from the gym, and they were like, I don't know about this hip hop. Right. And I was like,
so 90s.
Again, this is not hip hop gear. This is just young black man clothing. This is
you went through your Hollywood shuffle.
Yeah, it was like that, right? But I think it didn't affect anything. From their point of view, I toned it down. From my point of view, I still have my baggy jeans, but maybe not my baggy overalls. Or you know what I mean? Like
I absolutely know what you mean.
Bib and all that, right? So I wore my docs, but I didn't wear my red docs. You know what I mean?
I'm just gonna say Brother Jim and not the other Jim, Mark Twain Jim. Look.
So you go through your growing pains early, and then the job of life, I think, is to find, for me anyway, the be like water thing is like be bendable, yes, but water is relentless. Water is what they call a universal solvent. If you pour water on anything long enough, that thing goes away.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's do this, but keep going in the direction you're choosing to go.
There you go.
Right?
There you
and
go.
The world is mostly no. So instead of going, oh no, crushed, you go, well, maybe this then.
There you go.
You didn't say no to this though, did you? So, and that's been my whole life. So
I always like to say that there's always another way. And it's been proven, that's been tested and proven more times in my life than I ever had, doing everything that I've done.
Yep. And look at Ghost as a good example.
Going around no and switch and flipping it. It basically says that you're on, and you're probably on to something better, an aspect of that.
Look at Mary J. Blige and Method Man. Okay. Now, I grew up with them. They're roughly the same age as me. Their music is my music from the time of all of us being teenagers all the way up to the present day.
Absolutely.
Both of them are musicians. Right? They're musicians. Their bones are made getting in front of a crowd and doing a version of songs, real songs in Mary's case, and rap in the case of Method. But they came to play when it was time to act. They said,
and they're really good at what they do. Like they're tremendous. Not even just this. Like by the time they reached your show, we already knew how awesome they were. But like seeing Mary.
That's
on the Umbrella Academy, and seeing her on the other.
Wait, what's that other one? The other one about the folks on the plant on the old sharecropping movie. The movie. Like who knew that was even in her except her?
Let me tell you, when she did that one, but also the Umbrella Academy, like I was so eager for her to want to come back for season 2, but it was like a one season thing. I thought she not like. People were talking about how great her role was on that show. Like it was insane. And then Meth, my goodness.
What happened?
See how established that dude can be?
Yeah. I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like they were playing parts that you wouldn't expect them to play.
Don't underestimate Staten Island.
No. And but my point is that you and I were talking beforehand. I write a lot of different kinds of stuff. But the reason I'm able to keep working and that I write a lot of different kinds of stuff is that I say yes to things that you wouldn't automatically think, oh, he wrote this, therefore he must always write this.
Yes.
Right? And my feeling was always, I'm going to get paid to be writing because I did not like being a roofer. Okay? I was a short order cook. Didn't enjoy that very much. I was a phone bank operator at one point. I really didn't like that job. Lying to people all day long from a distance to get money out of them? No, thank you. Right?
Telemarketing, that was me for one day. One day.
No, thank you. Right?
I couldn't do it.
I'm going to be writing is what it is. So if someone comes up and says, hey, can you do this short subject for me? I've never really done that before. Is it paying? Yup. Okay. And I don't tell them I never really done that before. I just say, what are the specs? When do you need it? I will do my best. And then when I hand it in, if it's wrong, they go, well, could you make these changes? They never, ever go, is this your first time? They never.
I've done it many a times myself. That's how I ended up in corporate, period. It's like, luckily I knew all of Microsoft Office enough to get myself in the door to that point, but I didn't know anything else, but I just assimilated into it right afterwards. Same with this show, like doing video interviews. I didn't start that until 2020 because a good friend of mine, Molly Flanagan, who's like, she's an actor. She plays in live action and anime.
Okay.
She was in the TV show Not Dead Yet last year, and on ABC.
Okay.
And basically, she gave me the opportunity. Her and her wife gave me the opportunity to moderate a panel featuring all of the anime, cast that they were in 2020. It was a virtual panel, and I'd never done it before.
Right.
But damn if I wasn't going to step
You
this
said
opportunity.
yes, right? You said yes.
We tested, we did it. I had the assertiveness to go ahead and do it, and we knocked it out the park for 2 hours doing that panel, which led me to like, okay, I got my feet in the water. I'm gonna start doing video versions of these interviews, which leads us here.
Well, yeah, right. And also, you don't know what your path is going to be. You don't know what's going to be a roadblock, and you don't know what's going to be a bridge. You just don't know. So you shouldn't really worry too much about that. Just make sure you get some money, get that bag filled, and keep rolling. And if it's not the perfect thing every time, because it's not always the perfect thing, I will say I've never worked on a job that I couldn't say, hey, I worked on that. But there are jobs I've worked on where I was like, well, that was a job.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm not going to say which ones.
Exactly.
Because people you work for don't want to feel like, oh, he was just here for the check.
But you know what?
Right.
And plus, you're not the only one.
Right. And so
everybody in your industry.
Right.
I've heard stories from a lot of people in your industry, and gratefully that they were, that they consented to me about that. But it's like it's a norm.
Hey, let me tell you, when I was on Magnum PI, I used to be like, why do you stay on NCIS so long? Right. And people be like, what are you, a snob? I'm like, I'm not a snob, but it's basically the same show every week. Like, when you go crazy after a while, and they're like, I don't think you get it, Jeff. And I was like, I guess not. And then I got on Magnum PI, and that was my first time on a full-on network writing gig.
Right.
I was like, oh, these chips are just stacking themselves up. I see. Okay. Okay. Now I know I got that beach house. Holy, is it going to stop? Will it ever stop? Holy damn. Okay. Like, now that's not enough to make me stay.
Right.
But it might make me stay an extra season.
Right.
Okay. I might not go the distance, but I would be like, all right. I wasn't gonna buy that yacht because I couldn't afford it. But oh no, another season of this. I can get to harbor. And I might be
able to invite Magic.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But if that's the thing that's just a job, then you have other things that make you go, okay, I'm going to do my best here, but I'm going to do my best for different reasons. So I think just be grinding is basically the thing. Like, live your real life, keep your real friends, right? And things, I don't know, I won't say things work out because there's still too much luck involved.
Yeah.
But you can flex luck as long as you're open to, right now I'm doing this, right? Yeah, you're not directing that Apex movie you want to direct, but you are the DP on a really kick-ass video. And right now, you're getting paid to flex your skills to make these people look great, make them look great.
Right.
And take that money and go to the movies and buy your girl or your boy whatever you want to make them happy with, and make sure your rent's paid, and then on to the next. But let people know. But what I really want to do is this little short movie, or what I really want to do is dance this thing. I need to get to Spain to learn flamenco. Now I'm working my way towards that. Right. It could be something that only you go, this is important. But if you get so bogged down in the destination, it's the journey. The journey makes the destination happen.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's never just a straight line unless your name's Gwyneth Paltrow.
Absolutely well said. And speaking of doing this, let's jump on to what you're doing right now.
Aha! Comic books, damn it.
There you go. Last time we spoke, literally last year, And you do this to me people go back to every interview that we do, because he always ends with a cliffhanger of what's about to happen next, which leads us to
something big's coming, baby. You don't even
there you
know.
go. But last year you actually said that there was something coming and you were working on a big project, and it's safe to say that we now know that to be the latest rendition of X-Force.
Oh no,
Marvel.
Oh no.
That's not it.
That announcement still hasn't happened yet.
Are you serious?
Well, it has in a way. The company that project has announced it.
Right.
And people know about it, but those of us who worked upon it have not been given the go ahead to say, "Oh yeah, me too."
Oh, it's that big. Wow.
Yeah. So
I already thought I'm looking when I found out that you were
working on already out in front going right. But all of us people who wrote the thing, we'll let y'all talk in a minute.
Oh, like, so this is just like a small flex right here, what you're doing X-Force. Like
X-Force is, it sounds, listen, I like comic books. Okay. I'm going to be writing some comic books, whether it's my own comic books or if Marvel or DC lets me do one of theirs. But I'm not doing it because they pay me a lot of money, because they don't pay you a lot of money.
Right.
Okay, they need to really work on that, because if this was my only job, it would not be my only job.
Right. Isn't it odd that like you're writing for a comic book, but they pay you like Peter Parker?
Where is the lie? I'm not. There a lie? No, it's bad. The comic book industry is notorious and bad for that. Right. And there's not anything I can do as a freelancer about it. But I am lucky because my main career means I can take gigs where, if this was between me and eating, I don't know, I might have to do that Uber gig, baby. So basically I pitched out some stuff to them.
Yeah.
My way of pitching is, I don't know what's going on. I'm not in the cool kid club. So
right.
Like they got plans usually going out a year or more from whatever you see on the comic book shelf.
It's like you read my mind into the question I was going to ask you, but go on ahead.
Companies, first of all, the thing you see, like right now, I just turned in, I think they just published issue 2 of X-Force.
Which I just finished reading, by the way.
I just turned in the script for issue 8. So that's how far out ahead I am, right?
Right.
The company's even further out than that, right? Because they're thinking about 2025, 2026. Okay. So when you're outside that, you don't know any editors, you're not hanging out with anybody, you don't know any of that. You got to come up with stories that it doesn't matter what they're doing, right? Like, I want to do this kind of story about Doctor Strange, because I don't know that you're going to kill Doctor Strange in 2 weeks, right?
Right.
They're like, "Oh, Jeff, that's so good. Sadly, we're killing Doctor Strange for a couple of years." What? It's Doctor Strange, but this story, like, we know.
But they kind of did that with a character you had on the first issue.
Don't get me started.
But, which I'm calling BS, by the way. I'm just saying.
What? You mean Deadpool?
Yes.
Well, 2 things. I don't like Deadpool. They were like, the movie's coming out, and I'm like, I knew this shit was coming. What? They're like, "Can he be in the book? He used to be on the team." And I was like, "Yeah, he's not on this team, though. This team is like," we had a long talk about Deadpool. And I was like, "All right, listen, what can I do? Can I do anything I want with Deadpool?" And they're like, "All you can't do is kill him.
Right.
Anything else you want with Deadpool." And I was like, "All right, then so you saw what I did with Deadpool."
Which, again, I'm calling BS from a standpoint. You're talking about a company who killed off Xavier 6 times, who probably killed off Aunt May multiple times.
But listen, if you're in the cool kids club,
right?
And I'm not saying anything negative, by the way. I don't spend all my life trying to be like, "Hey, could I one day please write the Avengers?" I'm not that dude. I just sometimes come up with stories, and maybe an editor will hear it, and maybe they'll buy it. That's my whole relationship. I do not socialize. Most of these people are 10, 20 years younger than me. Like, we are not friends. We are business acquaintances. Okay?
Right.
So if I come up with a story an editor likes, they buy it.
Right.
Now, the trick is, when they say, "Do you have anything else?" you have to have something else. Right? So I generally have between 10 and 25 else's when they say, "What else you got?"
Right.
But I tell every writer, if they say, "What else you got?" and you got nothing else, they're not calling you back.
You see, this is the job. I'm about to get comically political, but we're not going to get too deep. This is the job that you can have concepts of an idea, and I'll just leave that.
Oh, no, you cannot have concepts of a plan. You need a plan. You need an actual plan.
I know you need an actual plan, but you got to have a backup plan, but backup plan.
And that's the thing. For a freelance writer, especially a freelance fiction writer, now I don't write magazine articles for money. So I don't know exactly how that gig works. But when you're pitching a story to a company that owns Superman or whoever, they own it. So they got all these plans. So you got to come up with not only a story that they couldn't think of, right, but which also fits their plans. And you don't know their plans. Fair enough. So,
but you got to have something at the table before you get there. That's all I'm saying.
You need. Here's the thing. Like
you got to play off, and then you got. It's like me. All right, I'll put it like this. I'll compare it to me designing for a client. Okay. I they want a particular idea for a concept for their brand. I have a main concept in mind, but I also, design a few other variants.
Yes.
Just in case, even though I know in my heart of hearts, the one that I know.
But if you don't, that's exactly it. So
there you go.
You pitch your A game, right? But you have to have a B, C, D, and E game. At least 4 more things.
And at least 8.5 and 9.
Yeah, and
out of 10, they're going to pick the one that I already designed.
Oh, invariably, the one that I pick, the one that they pick for me is the last one I say on my way out the door. They never pick the first idea ever.
That's interesting.
Like that's a whole TED talk. I don't know what that is, but it's true. Like I come in ready. Like people laugh at me. I come in with literally 10, 15 pitches. I'm not expecting to pitch them all, but they're ready.
Yeah.
Right. And almost every time, I would say literally like just under 100% of the time, they say no to everything. And as I'm walking out the door, they're like, you don't have any one more thing? Like, you don't have anything extra? And I'm like, well, I mean, this one's a little half baked, but, and then they buy that one.
You hit a Columbo.
It's like that.
One more thing.
Like that, right? So the idea with this was, getting back to X-Force.
Yeah.
I had got into Marvel doing little projects, as you know.
Right.
And it's funny how when people don't read, like a lot of comic book readers, they only read the thing they read and they don't pay any attention to the characters they don't pay attention to.
Or the other part of the universe that connects.
Or like, I'm a DC guy. I'm a Marvel guy. I don't, right. So there's a whole bunch of people are like, where'd this dude come from? Hollywood? And I was like, man, I've been banging for 15 years. What are you talking about? Right. But part of that banging is you have to build up a food chain. So first thing was Solo, which I knew was never going to sell, but what the hell? We had a good time with it. I enjoyed
the hell out of that. Oh, look, I say that all the time.
But nobody cares about Solo, so nobody was going to buy Solo. But it's a good
that's what I love about him most likely, Ali. It's like he was that one crazy, strange character.
I wrote Solo.
And you capitalized on it.
I would love to write Solo all the time. Solo is an idiot. That's why I like writing Solo.
I feel like Solo is Marvel's Kite Man.
Kind of. Yeah, he's a little idiot. Right? What did I say? Solo is a 8.5 on everybody's scale, but he thinks he's an 11.
Exactly.
Right? So anyway, but because of those little jobs, that means Solo didn't go, Mosaic didn't last very long. A couple of like short subject things, knocked it out of the park with the Black Panthers one shot. But from the editor's point of view, they're like, okay, he's consistent. Right? His stories are good. The thing that a lot of people in the audience don't get about fiction especially is it isn't just you didn't like it, therefore it's bad. Right? Or I liked it, therefore it's great. Like, it's great for you, but the company's only concerned about numbers. For instance, every comic I wrote that failed at the big 2, if those had been indie comics doing those same numbers, you'd be talking about me like Prince. Because indie comics don't sell like that.
Perspective.
Okay. But the company, a big company like that's like, look, if you're not breaking 30K, you got nothing to talk to us about. Doesn't mean it's bad. It just means you're not hitting your numbers. 29.9 is not good enough. It has to be 30 or above.
Right.
Right. So what you need to do when you're not a big star, and I'm not trying to be a big star, is keep being consistent, keep giving them ideas they couldn't think of. So that when I found out, because remember, for the last 5 years, basically, it's been Krakoa in the X-Men universe.
Yeah.
Right. Jonathan Hickman comes in, and it's like, we're going to do X-Men like this now, and went off for 5 years. Completely different, crazy. Right.
Yes, he did.
And they went all the way off with that. And then at some point, everything comes to an end. And they're like, okay, Krakoa is coming to an end. But I don't know this. I'm just like you. I'm just out in the audience.
Right.
Right. So I'm like, okay, well, Krakoa is going to go forever. And here's what they're doing. You know, I really like Forge. They don't do enough with Forge. He's always sitting around making gadgets for people. There's more to Forge than that. So
he does seem like a leader character that never is leading.
Well, he's leading now, baby. Okay. But yeah, so basically what I found out through the grapevine one day was, I think he even announced it on one of the comic book, Tom Brevoort is taking over X-Men. They're making a big change. And, you know, Krakoa is now coming to an end or whatever like that. And I was like, well, I don't know about all that, but I got a Forge story. If it's all winding down, I got a Forge mini I want to pitch you. And he was like, well, let's hear it. And so I pitched him out a version of, it ain't X-Force. What I pitched him, if you read comic books and you ever read the comic book Planetary, Planetary was an indie comic book about these three people who had superpowers, but they were not superheroes. They didn't wear costumes or whatever. They just happen to have special abilities. And they became part of this thing called the Planetary Organization. And the idea was they were going to roam around their version of the Earth, and they were going to unearth all this weirdness that was going on behind the curtain, right? So it's kind of like X-Files with superpowers.
Right.
But it was also about how the comic book industry works. So like ultimately the bad guys in this thing were their version of the Fantastic Four. Like it was the Fantastic Four's fault that everything was going wrong, right? But it took you 2 years to find out who the bad guys were, right? And all that. And I loved it because what it really was the writer was exploring how comic books work, all the things that young comic book readers don't remember because they didn't ever see it from the 50s about monsters and from the 60s about this and how black people were treated back in the day versus like all of this stuff.
Well, it's funny you said that because I got that vibe too, but also like, it reminded this version of X-Force right now in the story that you're writing. It kind of reminds me of like what they were trying to do with Legends of Tomorrow.
Yes, in a way. So here's how it works at comics.
Or at least I thought that that's what they were doing until like season whatever, like that, where they just started.
Just wait. Here's what happened. So I pitched it to Tom, and he's like, that is pretty cool. Now, we're not going to put that on the front burner because that's an off to the left type of story. It features a character that's never really soloed in a book before. And I had the team was going to be Forge, Sage, and a couple of other people.
Okay.
Right. Not the team that is in X-Force right now. Like the core team, the two.
How did it talk about how did that get to this point? Because did you have a choice with that, or did you have other people in mind?
I'll tell you the story. Literally no one else knows this. Okay.
Gotcha.
So he was like, cool. So flesh this out, because basically what you're pitching is sort of an overview. Here's what the series would be. Here's the kind of things that would happen. I'm pitching maybe between 5 and 8 issues, and then I walk away. Right. No big deal. Because remember, I got this whole other career going on. I'm not trying to do an ongoing comic book. Tried that with Green Lantern, and it almost broke me. So I was like, every day. But so he said, no, it's dope. And the characters, things I wanted to do with Forge, I wanted to reposition him in a way. You'll see when you get to the end of this run where Forge ends up, because Forge is a bastard. But he's on our side. He's our bastard. He said, that's all great. Just flesh it all out. We're definitely doing this. We're going to probably do this as part of the second tier when we start rolling out miniseries for this new initiative.
Right.
Which I don't even know what the initiative is yet. Right? Like, I have not even put together what the new direction is going to be. And I'm like, cool, great. This all sounds great. And then he called me back like a few months, many, many weeks later. Tom emails me back and says, so that thing you pitched me, fleshed it out. Yeah. I got all this and these characters, and this is the thing that's underneath it. He's like, yeah, well, I was talking to the editor who's going to be taking over Mark Basso. He's going to be taking over X-Force. I think he was already on X-Force, and he's going to continue being the boss of X-Force, the editorial boss of X-Force. He thinks your pitch might work for that. And I was like, for X-Force? Young Jay West's not murdering people. He's like, yeah, but that's the old X-Force, right? He's like, that's the original, like, not even the original, but the most recent couple of versions of X-Force have been the Kill Squad. I was like, man, I did not pitch you a Kill Squad, so I don't know how this is going to work. He's like, no, la, 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 la. No, we want it because it's not that. But you think we could call this book X-Force. And so then Mark and I got together because I was like, well, look, this is more like a Vertigo book from old school DC, the way I pitch it. He's like, well, X-Force is not going to be that. Like, we're going to have to blow some stuff up and smack some. So I was like, well, I'm good with it. So we worked out, okay, what will it be like? And by the time I came in, you know, the big guns, I don't like working with the big guns because it's too much heat.
When you say the big guns, you mean the big characters?
Rogue, Cyclops, Professor X, Magneto. I'll never pitch them.
Too much pressure.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got something. Oh, you should do this. I'm like, I should do what I wanted to do is what I should do, right? but with the lesser characters, you have more freedom to flex.
That is true. I can see that.
So, and if you can tell you can tell a more compelling story, because, for instance, if I wanted to kill Forge, I could, and he'd stay dead because Marvel's not thinking about Forge, right? They're like, yeah, do your thing. Now, I'm not going to because I freaking love Forge, but I'm saying that means that the adventure can really be an adventure, because if I kill a character, you're like, oh, damn, this is not an important character. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's important to me. I like the character.
I would say for Forge, I would say slightly, because I feel like he has cult love.
He does. I'm part of that cult. And the new, the new X-Men 97 cartoon definitely put him back in the front.
There you go.
I did not know that was showing up. I had no idea that was coming. But the point is, so me and Mark basically went, okay, I said, this is I told him, I get what your needs are. Mm-hmm. I understand it's X-Force now, because it didn't have a title before. Right. I'm going to need more characters. And I pitched him out a whole bunch of characters. The X-Force was actually, what are there, 6 of them right now?
Yeah.
Like 4 women and 2 men. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, a man and a thing that looks like a man.
Wait a minute. You said it's 4 women and 2 men?
Well, it's like there's Ascani, Captain Britain, Sage, and Tank. Surge. And then there's Forge and Tank.
Yeah.
So 6. Okay. 6 players. And I shouldn't refer to Tank as a man necessarily, because it may not be, but
we're binary in this character.
We don't know what Tank deal is yet. I'm just saying.
And for me personally, I can't speak for the listeners and the watchers of this show, but I've just came into this, this universe of Marvel right now.
Okay. Well, you don't need to know anything.
Is Tank brand new to this particular story? Or like this is the first? Okay, so we're all in it. Okay.
Tank is Tank. Tank is Tank.
Gotcha.
Tank's going to do Tank stuff in this book.
Gotcha.
But I pitched him out. So that was 6. But I pitched him out a group because I took the term force to mean more of a bigger organization. Yeah. So I pitched him. I think X-Force in the original pitch had 10 or 11 members. Okay. And they were set up way differently. They were going to be a kill squad, but they were going to be much more ninja-ish.
Right.
All this kind of stuff. And the first thing Mark said was, well, I got some bad news for you, son. Some of these characters we're not doing anything with at all as a company right now because they're very complex. Mm-hmm. And the new readers, you're going to have to spend so much time every page explaining who the hell this person is that won't be any fun. So that person's off the table. And I was like, okay. Mm-hmm. And you came in last in line. Like the X-Force is the last team book we're picking up. All the others have their character rosters already. Right. I was like, okay. So this character is going to be an X-Men. This character is going to be an Uncanny X-Men, etc. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't going to use them that much anyway. They were just there because people like them. These are the characters I want to be in the core. And he was like, oh, those are great. Yeah, have a ball. Right? And I was like, really? Even Captain Britain? And they were like, do your thing. Have a ball. Right? I promise you, nobody's touching Captain Britain right now. Right. And I was like, you know what I do to characters sometimes? And it's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Have a ball. So that ended up being the book. And then the question was, I like to do switch ups. Like the way you pitch is, if you're smart, you don't pitch it in such a tight detail that you're like, oh, wow, I can't use Cyclops. So now I can't even tell chapter 4. because the whole thing was based on Cyclops and how his powers work, and I don't know what I even substitute. You don't pitch like that. You pitch it softer so that the story doesn't necessarily change, but the components and how you get there changes, right? And that's because of editorial. You just never know which way editorial is going to jump until you get actually in the car with them. So we did all of that, and I said basically, look, I did this very big Green Lantern book, which was essentially me writing a science fiction novel using comic books. And it was going to be a science fiction novel trilogy, and a year long of Green Lantern under that would have been book 1, and then book 2 would come, and that would be a year long, and so on. And I wrote it like that with that in mind. And some people felt the pacing was slow. I disagree, by the way. I feel that everyone who felt the pacing was slow was wrong, and they need to calm down. But but there was, it sold well enough, but there were detractors, and it was a very high concept esoteric book. So for this, I was like, let's just shoot some stuff, right? Let's just have these people run around and do X-Men type crap,
right?
In a weird way. So the part of it that's still like planetary is one of the things that if you're an old head like me, especially about Marvel comics, is there are things that happened even before well before I was reading comics that nobody remembers or knows about or thinks about. So I was like, yeah, but what happened to that? How come nobody ever addresses that?
Right.
And the reason is because nobody cares. Why would they? That was 1957, Jeff. You weren't even born yet, right? Well, I was like, yeah, well, that's going to be a bad guy, or that's going to be a place we go, or that's going to be an object that's going to be causing trouble now because nobody's been thinking about it for 50 years and nobody touched it. And now we'll look what happened. Right. And all of it's in the continuity of Marvel Comics. Right. So when I was coming up, there would always be these little notes in the comics that would be like, this line that this person just said refers to Avengers 128.
Exactly.
Right. Well, you're going to see that throughout this book, constantly throughout this book.
I missed that part of being a comic book fan. Like,
I love that. That was
I'm partially in your generation, too, in a sense that like when you were a Marvel fan, like you knew when you're just a comic book fan, period, whether you're Marvel or DC or whatever, you knew everything. And then you wanted to learn everything. You wanted to be educated with everything. You would study the mythology at all time. Like we used to I still have them. I still have the Marvel comic baseball cards.
Yeah. All the cards, and they did a thing called the what do you call it? The Marvel Universe A to Z or whatever.
The original ones too, with Eric Larson and Jim Lee and all that. I got all the Jim Lee X-Men cards too.
That's the fun, right? That's part of the fun.
You look at the back and you learn some little tidbits of tips that Ditko and Lee will put in and stuff.
Who created it, what it was based on, first appearance, all of that stuff, right?
And it mattered.
And it did matter.
It mattered.
And it also would make you do something which comics, I don't know that they try to do this the way they used to. I think they take it for granted that you like comics because, again, when I was coming up, there was no such thing as a comic book shop. They were just wherever, right? Yeah. So
7-Eleven, corner store,
grocery store, bodega,
right,
airport. You'd be, comics, You
most likely would see in Iron Man and in Luke Cage, no matter what.
Exactly, right? Barbershop, anywhere, right? But what they did as a marketing tool was, okay, well, maybe this person never heard of Spider-Man, but this Spider-Man villain is now fighting the Black Panther. So first appearance in Spider-Man 106, currently on sale.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you go, I don't know, Spider-Man, who the hell is Spider-Man? And then you go get Spider-Man or vice versa. Right? And maybe you won't like Spider-Man, but maybe you will. Right?
I've landed myself in other comic books so much because the story was so intriguing, and it didn't, they had that little bit of information, and boom. This is before the internet too. So it's like you really
got by the way.
Yeah, like grind.
They're going to have a part of an adventure where Sage is going to be explaining something to the group.
Yeah,
this happened back in the day. And then the Rachel, the Ascani character, is like, yeah, I know, I was there, right? Because she was in that issue from where Sage was not, right? She just knows it as information. She's like, yeah, I was there. Cool, got it, right? Right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Hold on for 1 second. That Ascani character, that's not Rachel Summers, though, right?
That is Rachel. That's Rachel.
Is that?
Yeah. I wanted to come up with brand new names for some of these characters, and they're like, no, Jeff. And I said, why? It's because in both Captain Britain and Rachel's case, people have been throwing names at them like every time a new writer comes on.
Right.
And I was like, all right. I get it. All right. So we'll see if we can finesse that later. But for now, and it doesn't matter because again, with one of the things that drives me nuts as a reader is unless you're out in public or if you have a straight up secret identity that nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like Captain America's nickname is Cap.
Yeah.
Right. But if he's in real distress, his friends refer to him as Steve.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone knows Steve Rogers is Captain America. So he's not hiding anything. So when you're at work, right, with your coworker who's, or a teammate, you don't call him Lieutenant Daniels all day long. You call him Mike.
Right.
Unless it's straight up official function.
When you're in a war room, it's Lieutenant Daniels.
Right,
when you're just like
when the public is there, when you're
in a rec room, a little something different.
Right. Or when you're actually on the mission. Right. Depending on what the mission is. Right. So that familiarity also is a way to shorthand for the audience. Oh, these people know each other.
Yeah.
Right. So like even in the first issue, Forge, I didn't say this and I haven't made a big deal of it, but the character of Surge has those big metal arm gauntlet things on her hands. They help her regulate her powers. Forge built those. Right. So when she shows up, Sage says basically her card stats. Oh, I know who you are informationally. You were in the Invader Institute, and these are your powers, and your real name is such and such, but your code name is whatever. But Forge just goes, Nori? Right? And those two lines tell you exactly what the relationships are between those two grown-ups and this much younger person.
Right.
Right? I don't have to explain Forge built the gloves and all that other stuff. And then later you'll see, because he's Forge, he's going to fix those gloves and make them better. He's going to make them less clunky. Right? All that stuff is sort of in the story, but it's not the story. So in this case, they refer to each other by their first names for the most part. Right. So people are like, how can they call each other this? And I'm like, because they know each other. They lived in the same house for years. What are you talking about? Right. I'm not calling.
And again, it's lost on a new generation.
Yeah. So
I mean, even the X-Men back in the 90s were like, once they're in the house, once they're in the mansion, it's like it's Scott, it's Chuck, it's now, like
some of the mutants, like Magneto, for instance. It's an interesting thing. Like his old close friends call him Eric.
Or exactly. Or Magnus. Yeah.
He himself is like, I am Magneto.
He like, no, I'm not stroking your ego.
Right,
Magnus, sit down.
Right. But for everyone who's not
play chess.
Well, he's got the power to make you say whatever the hell he wants you to say. But his upper level close friends, they get the little hand wave. But everybody else, you better call him Magneto.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta earn that.
So some mutants, once they get their powers set up, they choose to adopt the name that goes along with the powers. Mm-hmm. Some of them are like, well, sometimes I'm Storm, sometimes I'm Aurora. Mm-hmm. Like nobody in bed with me and call me
and then in certain other places you're a goddess.
Right. But I'm saying, like, none of my men refer to me as Storm while we're in them sheets. Let me put it to you like that. Okay. But it goes back and forth between the two of them. Same with Wolverine. They didn't even know his name for years.
For years.
They didn't even know his actual name.
People don't understand. Remember that time we still didn't know a damn thing about this guy?
We didn't even know the claws didn't come out of the gloves.
How many
gloves get the claws?
Wait, Jeff, how many years did it take us to even get to Logan? Like, we're at
James
now.
A decade? 10 years, easily.
We're now at James.
Yeah, now he's James. Mr. Howlett. Oh my God, whatever. But
I'm like, what?
My point being that, so what X-Force turned into was sort of a hybrid of what the company needs a version of an X-Force to be. It needs to be much higher action than what I had planned. There would have always been some action, but it would have been more like Hellblazer action, where it would be it would pop off, and then it would mostly be people wandering around talking, right? Until something really big happened. Oh, damn, look at that, right? But in this case, we wanted to run and gun, and I wanted to do something that was a little bit different than what if you look at all the books I've written for these two big companies, no two of them are the same.
No, they're not. Absolutely not.
Right? There's no style that goes from one to the other to the other. There's no way of approaching the story.
And that's what I really appreciate about your writing is like when you watch a Michael Bay movie, you know when you're watching a Michael Bay movie, you know when you're watching a Zack Snyder movie, like you're very diverse.
I don't want people going, oh, he's going to do this now.
Right.
I don't want that. I don't want
you read Solo and you read Green Lantern and you read this and you read Blood Syndicate. They are so different. They are very There's contrast.
Yeah, and that's on purpose, right? It's no fun to do the same thing over and over again for me.
Right.
So, and also, these are different characters. And one of the fun things about writing team books is I had certain, like, Forge is the reason I started all this. But I got to tell you, Sage is like, she's trying to take the book over. And I'm like, listen, this is not about you. This book is not about you. It's a team book with Forge as the star. She's like, I don't know if that's true, sir. Like, and I'm like, Sage, please, baby, let me write my book. Right? She's like, no, it's about me. Damn it. And that's the fun part of being a writer is like.
That's why some of them hate magic.
I mean, but they'll hate them until someone does something really cool and interesting with her. That right? That's every character, right? Like people gave me all this crap because I don't like Hal Jordan, and I still don't like Hal Jordan, and I never like Hal Jordan because there ain't nothing in there to like. He's made out of cardboard, and bite me if you don't agree. Okay, but I didn't treat Hal bad when I was writing him, and another writer who can find that key can come in and go, oh no, all of you guys got it wrong. This is why Hal's cool, and then I will agree too, because that writer will do that. Right? That writer has yet to appear in my case. but that's the point of it, and that's the fun of it from the writer's side. Right. So X-Force is a much more adventure-y, much more globe-trotty,
absolutely
fast-paced, very fast.
Which I can't wait to see who's going to be the antagonist. Because they're having fun. I feel like they're having fun right now. Yeah. But I feel like episode 5, issue 5, 6, or 7 is probably. I'm just guessing. You're not telling me anything, but eventually we'll have to see somebody that's coming in that's like seeing what they're doing.
Okay, so
and want to interact with their only thing.
The thing. Okay, this is the only time anyone's actually interviewed.
Because he's using the analog, and I feel like the analog is gonna.
Okay, let's talk about the analog a little bit because people. Yeah. I'm not going to give you any super details about it.
Right.
One of the things that people forget, maybe they never knew. A lot of people come into this with a modern understanding of a lot of stuff in both sets of comic books. Mm-hmm. So the cosmic cube that a lot of people refer to as the Tesseract because they saw the movies started life as a thing called the cosmic cube.
The original.
Right. The original cosmic cube was basically it's what I call Kirby tech, right? It's a block. It's a square block that you hold in your hand. And while you're holding it, it basically works like an infinity gauntlet. Like in a limited way. It doesn't change the whole universe, but you can change a big chunk of it according to whatever you want, as long as you're holding it, right? And it won't change back when you put it down. Somebody else would have to grab the cosmic cube and then change it back. This is crazy crap Kirby was always doing back in the day. But what people don't remember is a bunch of regular human beings invented the cosmic cube. It wasn't some like out in space and it crash landed on Earth and people discovered it. No, like 6 dudes got together in a lab and built this thing. And then they went, holy crap, what did we build? But they built it, right? So Forge has built something similar. It isn't like the Cosmic Cube. It doesn't do what the Cosmic Cube does. But he built a cosmic artifact in his lab. And even he is not exactly sure how it works.
Or how these dots are just swimming around.
And then this means this, but how'd you do it? I don't know. It's a mutation. I'm not an actual genius. I just make stuff, right? So, and that's another fun thing I'm getting to do with Forge is, Sage is all brains. For people who don't know, Forge's superpower is he can make a machine that can do anything he can think of. That's basically what people have said Forge is. What I posit is Forge is not actually, he's very, very, very smart, probably a regular level genius. But the stuff he's building, that's not genius. That's his mutation. Yeah. So it's kind of like a chess savant looking at a chessboard and you make 2 moves and they see the whole board and they go, okay, I can beat this guy in 3 moves. How?
He's always 4D chess.
Right, because he's going to do this, he's going to do this, and then I'm going to do that and it'll be over. I'll make 2 moves and he'll be done. Right? No, you won't. Watch. Boom. How'd you do it? No idea. I'm 5 years old. Right. Well, that has happened. It happens. It does happen. So that's Forge's mutation when it comes to machinery. Right.
He's like he's almost also like in a lot of ways the ultimate kinesthetic learner.
Yes, exactly that. So even he can't articulate or write down for someone else. So other people have to take his devices apart and go, how did he? Oh, damn! Look what he did here.
He just looks at it and is like, I can do this,
and he can make it,
and I could do it better.
And like that. Because otherwise, it's not a superpower.
Right.
If you're thinking about stuff, it's not a superpower. However, Sage's whole power is thinking about stuff.
Right.
Right. So I thought it'd be really fun. He's more like an artist. She's more like a scientist. Right. So the two of them bouncing off each other is fun. But the analog is leading them around because it does what he said it was going to do.
Yeah.
Here's where some crazy stuff's going to pop off. And if somebody doesn't show up and stop it, it will destroy the world.
Right.
So you got to show up and stop it. It could be anything. The analog doesn't tell you what it is. It just says, here's where and how big.
You know what's funny? He created his own artificial spider sense in a lot of ways, but also like this is they're basically doing Minority Report too.
In a way, but
in
remember,
a way,
it only works for him,
yeah.
Right? You and I can't. If we look at it, it just looks like a ball with glowing dots and stuff in it.
But it reacts to his DNA.
Got to go to Cambodia.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one. So it's run and gun. But did you use the QR code in the back of the first issue?
I have not.
Okay, I'm going to spoil something for you. Now they asked.
Maybe I have. Go ahead, because I might have.
After I turned in the whole script for issue 1, they said, "Hey, we're going to do this QR code promotion. Can you write one extra page?" And I was like, "Well, the story's done."
I did.
Right.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. So I said, "Well, the story is done. They're just going to move on to the next place. We already said they're going to Wakanda." Right. Yeah. And he's like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. It matters in the sense of make it interesting.
Yeah.
But we're not trying to change the rest of the story. Right? We're not giving you one extra story page. This is kind of like
this was an end credit scene. I absolutely did.
Literally that. God bless you. Yeah, an end credit scene.
I do remember this now, and I was, I was going to reach out to you when I saw that. I was like, "That's dope.
What is this?" Right. That's the thing. So if you didn't stay to the end of the movie, if you didn't use the QR code, you don't lose anything.
This was extremely clever.
Yeah. So back in the day, back in the old Claremont Cockrum days. Remember, I'm old head, so you got to pay attention to my moves because when I cook, I'm with all the ingredients. Okay,
right.
They did this thing where the all different X-Men get together, and the only one who was a holdover from the original team ended up being Cyclops, who's the leader. Yeah, right. And they were having all these adventures running around, and you're like, "Oh, fun! These are exciting. Look, there's a black chick. There's a Russian dude. That guy looks like a demon. What is going on?" And it was fun, right? And then at the end, they just crashed a plane again. And they're limping away from the plane, and some bad guy is watching them on his monitor, right? And you're like, "Okay, this is sinister. I didn't know someone was behind all this. What is that?" Problem. And then somebody else is watching that dude on their monitor. It's like, "Oh, you think you're behind stuff? I'm behind all of it." And I was like, "Oh, that is dope." So I basically did that same trick. So yes, someone is up to something.
Is this the first time they've ever done the QR code gimmick? Because I've never seen this. I've never seen this with any of the Hickman books that I've read so far.
So mad about that, and I was like, "Guys, relax."
Why?
Every book, I saw people just going ape. Like, "You're trying to make us do this."
Why do people always try to find a reason to be pissed off?
That's what I
Therapy, folks.
Like, relax yourself. And I was like, you know what it is though? I think that they assume that someone's out to get them, right? And I keep.
Well, yeah.
I'm like, no. Maybe in real life, people might be. I don't know your life, but
you're not even.
But in this case, the people who make comic books are not trying to screw with you. They're not trolling you. They're doing their best to make you have fun. So
I'm telling you, if you did this concept, if we had this technology in the 90s and you did this, people would have been all over this. This would be like. No, in a great way. This would be like the hologram issues.
Oh my God. And I can see it on my phone. I have a phone that has pictures on it. What's going on? Right? No, they try to
generation.
Your first was they are. Y'all are stupid. Y'all need to stop it. You know, really, just relax. And please try and come for Gen X with anything. We got it. We don't even mess with it. But the point is that if you read the whole book and you never use the QR code, you don't miss anything. The whole story is exactly the same. Right. With or without that. But if you read the QR code page, you're like, well, wait, who's that person whose hand is the only thing I see? Someone's watching them and they speak in Spanish or Portuguese or something. What is going on?
Here's the I guess hypocrisy, for this. Because it's you did this and people, I'm going to say a vocal minority.
Yes, they are vocal. They're a minority and they're vocal. Yeah.
I'm sure. But then we go watch Avengers and we see the end credit scene and see Thanos and just like, what? We get hyped for that, but not this? Come on.
Well, oh my God, Thanos is coming. Right. Yeah. No, I think it's because, like you said, there's a vocal minority of people who can only, they come to the party and always get sour.
Yeah.
As soon as they show up, they're like, well, why don't you have ginger ale? Well, we have Sprite. I know, but a real party would have ginger ale. Did I tell you it was going to be ginger ale at this party? No, I have Sprite. What's wrong with you? You didn't, why are you coming for me, man? Why didn't you put I like ginger ale. Dude,
because they're just placing their anger upon you based on something that they went through.
About ginger ale at my party. What the
discussion should not be with you. It should be with a therapist. I'm not going to stress that. I'm not.
Whoever wronged you, go talk to them. And if
go talk to them.
Find a priest or a therapist or a pastor and work your crap out. Because I'm at a party right now. And
learn to enjoy what you get. Because with everything that's going on in this world right now, you should be grateful that we're able to enjoy this type of content and any content in any favorite fandom. Because there are other people around the world that don't get this opportunity.
Yeah. Me and Marcus, that's the illustrator, and the entire
really good at great work on that book.
I love Marcus. He is a beast. But look, this book, this is a story about a bunch of people who were born with superpowers, who fly around in a magic jet wearing spandex clothing and fight monsters, or other people in spandex flying around in their own jet causing trouble. Right. Okay, but if you want to bring your real world problems into that, be my guest. But I'm just here for the fun.
I mean, Marvel's supposed to be relevant and relative, but I don't think this is the idea that they were looking for.
I tell you what you're not going to see. Okay, first of all, full disclaimer. There's a big beep here. Just picture a long, long beep, and then I put Trump at the end of that long beep. Okay? I am not a fan, okay, at all. But what you're not going to see is Dr. Doom pull off his mask in one of my comics, and some very thinly disguised version of Donald Trump will be under it. Okay? I'm not doing that. Never going to do that. You can never expect that. And if you think you're reading that into my work, you brought all that in with you, because I am not doing that. I'm telling the story of Forge and his team stopping monsters and bad guys. That's it. Okay? Because it's fun. It's light.
Right.
It's easy to write. Marcus having a ball drawing this stuff.
Right.
And every issue, I'm going to introduce some stuff from wider Marvel that maybe you don't know. Maybe there's always going to be footnotes. There's going to be things like maybe you only started reading the X-Men a little while ago. Well, we're going to refer to some stuff that happened possibly before you were born. Right? There's powers that people have that you're like, oh, damn, I forgot they could do that. Or we're going to erase some powers. Like, why did they make them able to do that? That was always dumb. Well, they can't do that anymore. I made a whole story about it. Right? All kinds of stuff like that. And all of it's just for it to be fun. I'm not saying it's not. I don't take my work seriously. I very much do. And I'm trying to tell you a really good story by the time you get to issue 7 or 8, you're going to have to go back and reread 1 through 5. That's not going to be an accident.
Right.
Okay. So I am taking it that seriously, but the end product is how you felt when you saw Avengers 1. Right? You didn't think there was anything deep going on. You just wanted to see Captain America, Iron Man, Thor fight Loki. Oh, the Hulk's in it? I'm all in, baby. Let's go.
Right.
And that's why you had a good time. You weren't there for some deep, in the 80s, Margaret Thatcher did some horrible things in England. And,
right.
That's why Bruce Banner is upset all the time. You know how Fury lost that eye? His grandfather got lynched in Mississippi, and he went down to handle his business down there, and they stabbed him in the eye, and that's why nobody wants that at the Avengers movie. I'm not here for that. I'll go see Mississippi Burning if I want that. I want to see Vince at the Avengers movie, right? So I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that or that they can't do that or that it's wrong to do that. I'm saying I'm not doing that. Okay, and if you want to have politics, here's my politics. I got a Native American man as the lead of the team. His second in command is a woman from the Balkans. Okay. I got 2 bisexual women in a couple on the team and a Japanese teenager or young 20s, rounding it up. I got 4 women and 2, apparently, men on a team, which is usually the balance goes the other way. Right? Mostly dudes with a couple of chicks who look hot. Well, I got a whole bunch of chicks and a couple of dudes. And I'm already getting, wow, Forge looks kind of hot in this book. I'm like, I'm not drawing it. Okay. But the point being is that if you want to understand how my politics work, I think you can tell by the makeup of the team. Yeah. Right? And within that, they're going to say and do things that you're going to, oh, well, I wonder what Jeff thinks about that, because Forge feels this way about it, but Sage feels a completely other way about it. Right? I don't set up straw man arguments. If my people have arguments, they both make a point. Yeah. Okay. And that means if I'm never going to do this, by the way, don't look for it. It's never going to happen. But if I was ever writing Jonah Hex, who I hate, if I was ever forced to write Jonah Hex, Jonah's point of view would be properly expressed. Right? I would just never seek to do it because I would be forced to write it eloquently. Right? But so that's the fun of it. And so people getting mad at each other. And this is not a team that got together because they all saw the monster together, or Forge basically went around. Another thing I'm too old. In Giant Size X-Men #1. Yeah. Okay. The story of Giant Size X-Men #1 is almost the same as the story of X-Force #1. Something bad happens.
And they recruit it.
And then Professor X goes around and recruits a team. And they're like, what are we doing? We're going to go do this. And then they go do it. And what do they fight? A giant monster.
But again, the lost art of research.
Right? But the structure is the same. Right? Except the way it's doled out is different. Like, I drop it in as flashbacks as the action is going on. Yeah. Right? In that story, it was straight line. It was just linear. Right? I lost one team. I need y'all to go get them. Go get them. Yeah. Okay? So this isn't an accident. I structured it exactly the same way because, remember, in the original X-Men, prior to that, there's a whole bunch of white kids running around. Very attractive white kids running around having adventures. All right. I was like, really? The world hates and fears these kids? They look like I don't know. Like,
I'm gonna age myself real quick, but you got Wally the Beaver and Dobie Gillis.
Yeah. It's like the cast of Gossip Girl plus superpowers, but the world hates and fears them? No, they don't. Shut up. And they're all white. Shut up. Right? So all new, all different was blue furry weirdo, Russian guy when it's the height of the Cold War, the Canadian murderer, a black chick. Okay. And at that time, Irish dude, a Japanese dude, and a Native American dude. They were cooking that on purpose. Yeah. Okay. Same thing with X-Force. Like, I'm just lifting the page out of the things that made me like comics and putting them back.
You're also honoring the tradition of what the brand was meant for.
Right. And you saw, by the way, in issue 2, one thing that has happened in every X-Men ever is that damn jet blows the hell up with them in it.
Which, by the way, I love the fact that it's just a Tuesday for them.
Yeah.
It blows up all the time. We'll fix it.
And
give me a half hour.
You know what? I'm tired of stuff blowing up. And you know where I got that from? I should have put it in the footnotes. That scene in the Iron Giant after he blows up and all his pieces start getting back together. That's every jet Forge builds from now on.
That's hilarious.
All them pieces are going to put themselves back together. Right? So, but the point is, like, all you're doing is laughing right now. And that's what you should be doing. It should be fun. I don't want you, like, he's not writing for the ages. And I'm like, nope. Absolutely not. You should read this, have a good time, and get on with your life.
There you go.
So, and yeah, there's more to it. There's definitely more to it. More is going on than you think. But as you go into any story, the complexity should increase. Yeah. Right? So all this is laying groundwork. How does a team work together? How do they get around? How do they find the things they find? What do they do? What are who likes each other in the team? Who doesn't really like each other in the team? Stuff like that. All of that's getting laid out through these adventures. And then at some point, that bad person that you saw in issue 1 is going to step into the game.
I'm waiting. I can't wait. I can't wait to see how this flies.
Oh, you're gonna love it. I'm literally the pages I'm writing.
This reminded me. It's funny. This is because this is X-Force. This reminded me when Strife first came out and the Mutant Liberation Front became a thing, and they slowly teased this dude coming.
Yeah, he's coming.
Yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. But let's move on to another subject, but still stay in X.
Okay, go.
And I would be remiss if I didn't get your thoughts on the X-Men 97 series without controversy aside, what did you think of the series?
Well, here's my thing. I was an X-Men Evolution guy. So
Get out of here.
I didn't really care about X-Men.
Was it the writing or the actual?
I think what it is that, okay, the period of time that X-Men 97 deals with,
yeah,
and the original X-Men cartoon dealt with,
yeah,
those are the comics I was reading when I grew up.
Right.
So to me, it was kind of like watching a home movie.
Okay.
Right? So by the time that they get to the Omega Red and all that kind of stuff, I already read those comics.
Yeah.
Like, and as much as those books were good, Jim Lee's better. So, like, all those designs were Jim Lee designs. And absolutely. I saw them in the comics. So from my point of view, at that time, I was like, yeah, this is cute. But that was about the extent of it. Okay. So seriously, but I wasn't mad at it because my friends were losing their minds because they never heard of the X-Men. All they knew from X-Men was that cartoon.
Yeah.
Right. So
that cartoon, that opening theme music, and
people were all up in that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. But I already knew every plot point. I already knew who was going to be a liar. Gambit's going to show up. Who is Gambit? Oh, just wait. Like that kind of stuff.
Right.
So when they did X-Men 97, which is literally a continuation of that series, mm-hmm. with the better technology now, like we can make a better animated piece. I was like, I didn't even want to watch it. My friend made me watch it. I was like, why? I already know everything they're going to do. What's the fun for me? I'm not saying other people shouldn't like it. I liked X-Men Evolution because it was so different, right? I was like,
because they went on like a almost like a teen 90210-ish CW.
It was approach. Everybody was a teenager except the grown-ups, Magneto, Charlie, Mystique. They were the adults, and everybody else
gave me the Ultimate Universe version,
kind of like
what Ultimate Spider-Man did. In a lot of ways.
Yep. And they did their own things, and I'm not saying everything was great, but for me, I can lean forward because I didn't know what was coming because everything was a spin. I did not know how they were going to play everything. But with 97 and with the original X-Men show, I knew every story before they told me the story because I read them already. So it is the same thing with X-Men 97. But my friend said, no, you should watch it. Take a look at it. So I did. It's good. I had a good time with it. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's exactly what I expected to be. And it looked really pretty. I liked the animation. They did a really good job. Yeah. It is not like, to me, it's like watching old home movies that they keep bringing out at every time the family gets together. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that picnic. Yeah, that was great. So what are we doing later? How long is this going to run? I mean, it's pretty. I like it. But again, it's not for me. They're not making that show for me, right?
Now, I would ask this: if you were to take the helm of rather showrunner or even writer, and you were kind of given a helm of what direction to go, even though they're it's based on the 90s, it's based on the series.
Yeah, I would do the Phalanx. I would do the Phalanx Covenant and bring in Gen X. That's what I would do. I would definitely do that. They seem like they're going to go hard towards Age of Apocalypse, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think you introduce Apocalypse and not do Age of Apocalypse.
Right.
So, but that I loved Age of Apocalypse. I think that was Marvel's most successful crossover event ever. But yeah, I wouldn't rush to that, but I would probably want to be involved in Age of Apocalypse because that looks like fun. But yeah, I mean, if they gave it to me, the thing about that show is, okay, so I wish I had their money when we were doing Black Panther's Quest. Okay, I wish I had their production budget. I wish I had. It was not the animation, the budget. But I also
and no slight on that show either, because I mean that show was dope. But like you see, there is a production difference.
Oh my God! But
it's one step away from like What If.
Yeah, it's just slightly below What If, just slightly, right? Mm-hmm. And What If's whole point?
I mean, Studio Mayor, for God's sake, is one of the best animation studios out there.
But remember, they're hampered because What If's whole point is we got to make you go, oh damn, right? Like every episode of What If has to make you go, what the hell, right? Mm-hmm. But X-Men 97 has to also, in addition to looking good, it has to match the original X-Men.
I know that, but you know what's funny? If you really look at that series thoroughly, Studio Mirror is not only just, they're capable of doing multiple genre animation. They do anime, and I need people to understand this. They're not everything, even though it's Studio Mayor, they don't just do anime.
Right.
They
It's
do,
not the same thing
and
over
it's,
and over again. Yeah.
it's such a misconception.
Yeah.
Because it's Studio Mayor, everything that they do is anime. Like
Well,
the Boondocks
goes
was
back
anime.
to our original. It goes back to
Yeah.
our original thing. You have to be able to do a lot of stuff to stay alive.
Right. Exactly. So when they did this, they had to capture that, but you could see they were trying so hard
Yeah.
not to show their ass
Yeah.
by going extra with it. And then there were times when the animation was picking up and it was like, yo, they are trying to hold back.
Well, like
they know they could go full. They know they could take those gargles off and just go full blast.
What do they do in the Olympics? When the skaters they do their freestyle stuff, but then there's something they do. It's like the fundamentals or the whatever. There's a word for it, but it's basically you all have to skate this exact pattern. You all have to skate exactly this, and we're going to grade you on knowing how to just skate, not your creativity, not your cool little dance moves. You're going to show us you can do this precision stuff. Right, I feel like that's the hump that those guys have to get over with X-Men.
And they to their credit, they did really good. But I saw episodes where like, oh, they're almost trying to make this. They're almost just close to making this anime.
Well, the Mojo one, you could feel them like we're gonna go off. We can go off. Like,
that
no,
one, the one after Remember It, where Rogue was just pissed off and she was meeting up with Captain America. And
yeah.
I was like, they tried not to show their ass. I love this. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but
just keep it composure.
I would want to do Gen X. I would want to do the Phalanx Covenant. There's a sequel, like they haven't even touched the Brood yet, and they that's a whole space travel thing. Oh wait, no, did they do that in the original show?
The Brood, they slightly did it in the original series.
Because the Little Andrew's in the original show. So
yes, and they didn't really heavy. Because if you read Jim Lee's and Chris Claremont's X-Men, they did do a few issues with the Brood in there, but they didn't emphasize on it in the series as much
so
as a major threat.
I would what is it called? New Mutants, if they gave me the New Mutants too. But see, I don't want to do I mentioned Black Panther's Quest. We did not do Black Panther Avengers Adventure.
Yeah. It literally was separate.
Like, here's who the character is. Here are some of the villains that the character might fight. Jeff, go make up some stuff. And so I put my team together and we made up some stuff. What I would not want to do ever is have them go, we want you to run the show. Here's Black Panthers number 1 through 28. Make that a show. Like you're not hiring me for that. I'm not here for that. That's somebody else's gig. Because I'd say yes for the money. And then 5 episodes in, I'd be like, okay, I'm killing everybody in the building and then me. Because this is nonsense. No. Right, I would be on the news like very quickly, having murdered everyone. But I would have murdered everyone I could see by episode 5.
Right.
So, but other writers are better at that kind of thing. I'm not that kind of adapting writer. I don't find that interesting. I don't want that. Right, like the MCU is not the 616.
No,
but again,
even though they call themselves the 616, is their variant.
Yeah, you can try to steal it. No.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I know my 616. Damn it.
Yeah, everybody who was who's not a big comic book fan, the main comic book version of Marvel Comics is called 616 because that's Universe 116. Theoretically, the Prime one, which I don't know why it's not 1 or 0, but whatever.
Hey, 616 sounds dope.
It does sound dope.
You can put it on a hat.
in the DC multiverse, it's Earth Prime or Earth 1, depending on your point of view or when you join in. So anyway, so 616 is its own thing. I like that the MCU is its own thing. I don't want it to be a straight copy. Like, well, if people are mad, well, that's not Secret Wars. Like, no, the title is Secret Wars. Right. And it has Skrulls in it.
Which, by the way, because it looks like the cinematic universe is following up with that version. The 2015 or 17 version?
Yeah.
You know how many conversations I had with people because they think it's like the old school 80s one? And I'm like, no, one. That's not the one that they're focusing on. And 2, you don't want that one. You want Jonathan Hickman's version.
I don't know. I think they might do the Beyonder. I don't know if they're going to call it the Beyonder, but they need to put this multiverse stuff away.
I mean, here's the thing.
Way to do it.
Here's the thing. If Doom's going to be in it, and this is just my hypothesis.
Yeah.
If Doom's going to be in it, I don't know how they're going to do it, but they need why bring Doom in if they're not going to focus on Jonathan Hickman's? And then on top of that,
Okay, well,
is Molecule Man going to be involved in this? Because that was a big factor too.
Okay, we are nerding the hell out right now.
Where do you think we at?
Audience,
This is Talk Time Live.
Okay.
This ain't Entertainment Tonight, man.
Okay. Secret Wars 1. I think it was Secret Wars 1.
Yeah.
Doctor Doom, or was that in 2? Doctor Doom ends up taking out the Beyonder and getting all the Beyonder's powers.
Okay.
He becomes the Beyonder, right? Hickman didn't make that.
I think it's 2.
Okay. Hickman took that to his version of that, right? Well, that's where Doom wins, basically. He becomes God Doom. But he'd already become God Doom in one of the versions prior to that. Mm-hmm. So what I'm thinking is it probably take elements of Hickman's, because there's a whole lot of good science fiction.
I'm pretty sure. I feel like they are going to take hints of it and just,
but that
do their own groove.
Okay, first of all, audience, if you don't know, there have been 3 Secret Wars and 1 Secret Invasion, which is not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Secret Wars, okay? The Secret Wars is God shows up, calling himself the Beyonder and dressing like a white Michael Jackson. And he says, and I mean Thriller Michael Jackson or Beat It Michael Jackson, not even, glove Michael Jackson. Okay. And
not make you want to scream Michael Jackson.
Right. Not that Michael. Michael when he was still mostly black. But only this is a white guy. And he takes all the characters that he thinks are fun, shoves them on this planet called Battleworld and says, all right, y'all fight. And they're all like, why would we? But we're all heroes. Right. Oh, really? Cool. Villains. Boom. Okay, fight them. Right? And the villains are all like, but what? Oh, we were already okay. Right? And so there's a big fight, but of course everybody goes, this guy who brought us here, he's the enemy. We need to stop him. So there's a whole bunch of fighting. They finally beat the Beyonder. Spider-Man gets the black costume. That's where Venom originally came from. The black costume came from there. Whole bunch of things got shifted around. People's power sets got messed up. And then they got put back in the regular book. It was a really great event. It got everybody's eyes on Marvel Comics.
It was a big toy sell for them.
Extravaganza. Yeah.
And it was also the absolute original crossover?
The first that was the first line wide, the full line was in it. Yeah. Yeah,
where everybody came together. And I don't think anybody's seen that since.
Yeah, the first crossover they did was Avengers versus Defenders trying to get this thing called the Evil Eye. And they had that classic shot of Thor and Hulk grappling and sweating because neither one could move the other. And Marvel, I know, was like, nah, we're not going to tell you which one's stronger. Right. But so
they're still playing around with that to this day, which is funny.
Secret Wars 1, and then Secret Wars 2 was the Beyonders like, well, that was fun. Let me go back and do it again. Right, which was really Jim Shooter going, we need money. Let's do another one. Right. And that's where Molecule Man and his whole thing comes in. And if you don't know who the Molecule Man is, people, Molecule Man is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby between them basically made up characters that were just God. Galactus was supposed to be just God. The Beyonder is just God. Molecule Man is just God. Right. Molecule Man can literally do anything. Yeah. Literally anything. Oh, they made up a character called the Impossible Man. He was also God. He was just goofy. Right. But like, the Molecule Man can literally do anything he wants to, and doesn't matter if you're magic, doesn't matter if you're God. I don't like you, you're gone. He can wish you to the cornfield. He can send you to the cornfield. He can turn you into a duck. You can't do anything about it. Except he's the ultimate slacker. He does not care about any of that. He wants to chill with his girl and watch cartoons and soap operas. So the second Secret Wars was everybody trying to find the Molecule Man because he was the only one who could beat the Beyond. Right. And he's like, why do I care? He can't do anything to me. Me and my girl are good. We straight over here. Right. Like, come on, man. And finally he joins in, whatever. So they win again. And then Hickman comes up like 20, 30 years later and goes, nah, like this. So
and then add Franklin to it as well. So
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh. But that one. So my thing is, they're introducing the Fantastic Four now. Like, we're getting a lead up to that. They haven't explained how they're going to put the mutants into this world where if they existed, they would have been players in some of these fights. Yeah. So the only way I can see them doing it is coming out of Secret Wars. Yeah. Right. So they meet the mutants, or the mutants are from some other dimension, and the dimensions get melted.
Which the Marvels put a hint in
that. At that because in Marvels, she meets X-Men 97's version of the Beast. Right.
Thank you for clearing that for me.
Yeah.
Two things.
That version.
Here, two things here. I've recently, I do this every year. I watch every single movie.
Okay.
Even leading up to the recent right now. So I'm all caught up.
Okay.
And I think the problem with everybody is that, like, we had a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And when we had a pandemic, there was this gap in the time that we were able to enjoy a MCU film and follow the process and everything. Even though they still had some of the, the television shows and all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
there was this gap, and we had to settle. And also, we're mentally stressed out by everything that's going on.
Yeah, I agree. The pandemic definitely hurt the storytelling part of
It was like the original writer strike from years ago.
Yeah.
And how that affected certain movies and all the stuff that came out.
Yeah.
And I watched all of that again, and I'm like, people were saying that there was some disconnect. I don't think there was a disconnect when I watched it. I believe everything connected. Now, granted, Eternals, I watched that again, and watching it in the film and in movies, I must have been like mentally fatigued when I watched it in the theaters because I wasn't into it. But I watched it again. I'm like, yo, this is not as bad as when I first saw it.
I finally watched the Marvels because people were just clowning the Marvels.
Dude,
now,
no,
watching, I was like,
that was sabotaged.
Yeah, this movie was not for your 50-year-old ass whining about X. This movie was a full family and for kids movie, and it was not trying to be anything else. But
on top of that, it was entertaining. I loved it. Let me tell you, that movie was sabotaged.
Yes, it was.
There was
nothing wrong with that movie.
It was proven that it was sabotaged because when it hit Disney Plus, turns out the insight data, all those people who claimed that they weren't going to pay to see it,
they did though.
Even though they paid to see it.
Yeah, they did though. Yeah,
it was the most watched movie, not just on Disney Plus, but on streaming, on network, period. And then on top, but here's the thing.
Look, man, here's the thing about people, and this is the thing that the haters hate as much as I think some of the other guys who I would not call haters, but they got their own issues. The audience always decides.
Yeah.
Okay. The worst you can do to the audience is tell them don't go see it, and they believe you. Yeah. But then they're going to be mad at you later when they finally see it on TV or something and go, "Why did that fool tell me not to go see this? This is great."
There you go. Stop being a follower.
That's exactly what happened with the Marvels.
Well, added to that, here's the part where I think like majority of a large portion of social media consists of a bunch of GPAs of 2.0s.
Yeah.
And less is that they felt like not supporting this film meant that it was a bad film. Do you know how many Oscar-winning films don't get seen in the theaters?
Yeah. Or how many, you know what? I can run your list right now. I'll tell you something. You know what was not a box office success? The Terminator.
There you go.
Oh.
There you go.
Oh, did I? What is it? What does he say? Did I catch you thinking? What does he say?
Yeah, right.
What does he say in Pulp Fiction? Did I interrupt your thought process? Right. But that movie was not a success.
We can name a list of like
Alien.
Yeah.
Blade Runner. Sorry, folks. Sorry about it. But
we learned later on, it's like, so all those people who claimed that they weren't going to support it end up supporting it anyway, and are still paying for it.
Yep, and you pay for it. You say you didn't, but you pay for it.
Yes,
and the company looks at those numbers and goes, well, we got a lot of smoke from a bunch of jerks on the internet, but all these people liked it. Okay, let me put it to you like this. I bring this up because it makes me smile now. It's been a couple of years. So there was a little bit of controversy about me, and I say a very, very tiny amount of controversy about me writing Green Lantern. And the reason was I hate Hal Jordan. And as a fan, when fans are on the social medias, they say, well, who's your least favorite character? And I'll be, that's easy. Hal Jordan, he sucks, right? And I did that for years. And then when they announced me as the writer on the book,
they went back on Twitter.
No, some jerks went and collected all of my ever mentioning.
People got too much time on their hands and not enough time dating.
And they went off and they were like, oh, this is going to fail. And they still said, oh, Jeff was the worst. They still, any chance they get, say Jeff was the worst. Jeff was the worst. And it failed so hard and it didn't. That's why they kicked him off the book and all la bull. Here's what actually happened. We sold around 30K books every month. That's what the company wanted us to do. If they had not wanted us to stay,
one of those.
Right? If they had not wanted us to stay on the book, we would have been canned around issue 5.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. Jeff, it's
a big misconception people constantly have
Right.
Not only just with comics, with TV shows. It's
No,
like,
it's numbers. It's
dude,
numbers.
they got approved for a second and third season. That means that their ratings hit a number that the studios liked.
That's right. There's only two reasons where that would not be true.
Right.
One, if the head of the barring a crime being committed by your star, because that doesn't count, right?
Yeah.
If your star is a rapist or a murderer or something, we got to cancel the show. But the only other reason why your show gets canceled if the numbers are good, the head of that show and the head of the studio can't get along.
Mm-hmm. That happens a lot, I hear.
You know what? Bye. Don't care. I'll eat it. My salary will eat that this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're out. All right. And the other reason is there's some giant editorial shift. Like the studio realized that Michael J. Fox is actually the star of Family Ties rather than the two grown-ups we thought were the star. So we're either going to cancel the show or we're going to turn it into the Michael J. Fox show.
You should have said Urkel.
Urkel, whatever. Okay. But the same thing happened, though. That's
same
exactly
thing
the same thing happened.
Yeah.
And you know why they did that? Because they knew who the audience was there for. Okay.
Yeah.
So with these comic book guys, loosely based, they will say what they want as if it's the truth. They will yell and yell and yell about how things fail and this woman can't do this because ladies can't write, or how come they put this DEI person on this project, whatever. And I'm like, the company maybe they make decisions based on that, probably not, but maybe they do. But they don't let you stay if you're not selling books.
At the end of the day.
Right? And the book number varies. So like if you put Jeff on Batman, and Jeff tops out. No matter what book I write, it sells about 30,000 copies.
Yeah.
Okay. They're going to fire me off Batman because Batman's supposed to sell 100,000 copies. So 30,000 is great, but we like Batman when he's selling 100K. You can only get up to 30, so you're off Batman. We're not going to never hire you again. We're going to put you on The Flash, which sells about 40. Maybe you can get it up to 40 and keep it there. If not, cool. Now we know you can only sell 30K. No matter what book you're on, your book sells 30K. So we're going to give you those characters because you can write 30,000 people a month like what you do, which means you can be banked on to guarantee a minimum of that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what these companies think about. Now, in the indie universe, it's flipped. You don't need the big numbers, but it's all on you.
Yeah.
Right. So it's an interesting thing. And I wish one of the reasons I do these few shows that I do is the people that I talk to, like yourself, you are people who like the thing and want more people to like the thing, whatever it might be. So the whole vibe of the show is, I really like this. I think you will like this. Here are some people who make the thing and like it. We should all like it together. That's my vibe too. But there's a whole bunch of a loud minority of people who then make their money and sell their cups and t-shirts by being, I'm going to swear for a minute, whiny little bitches for money.
I'll prove that.
Okay. And I'm just not here for any of that. And I think the real audience who's not on social media, they're just buying the comics they like. And that's what happened with the Marvels. People like what they like. The audience likes what it likes. Yeah. You can say whatever you want. They're going to still like it. They may pretend they don't like it in front of you, but they still...
Just to me, it's like, why waste your energy doing that? Why be contrarian? Why...
The numbers don't lie, as you just pointed out.
There you go.
Those people going to parties and someone loud like me is going, I hated the Marvels. That was the worst thing. They're going to, yeah, Jeff, you're right. But they watched it.
These are the same idiots, and I'm sorry to say it. These are the same idiots who, when you talk about anime, it's like you got your subs people and you got your dubs people, but the sub people claim that they love the subs better. No, they like reading. You like reading. You have no educational background in learning Japanese. Yeah. You don't even know what Nihonjin means. Yeah. You don't know hiragana from katakana. You don't know. How do you know how good the performance is if you don't know, if you're not fluent in Japanese? I went to art school. We had to watch all these foreign movies, and almost all of them were subtitles. And I don't have any problem with it, but I have a bad association because it was always a chore. It was never a movie I would have watched anyway. It was just for class. And it was always in German or Portuguese or something. And I had to the cultured movies. Right. And I was like, okay, this is slow and it's in black and white. I don't know why these people are mad at each other. Why did he slap that girl? I don't know why he did that. I can read it. I still don't know why. Oh, because it's really it's Del Arte. And I was like, I don't want to watch this movie. This is not a movie to me. Right. So by the time I'm out of college, if someone said, we're going to go see this, and I'm like, you got subtitles?
And they'd be like, well, yeah, it's French. I'm like, miss me, I'm not going. They dragged me to see La Femme Nikita. And I was like, thank God. I was like, thank you, Jesus. I would have never seen this movie.
Let me tell you, man, it is funny too, because it's like the only reason why they say that it's pretentious to me. It is nothing but pretentious. And it's like when people do stuff like that, it's just to make themselves feel a little bit more cultured, a little bit more educational, but like we see right through you.
Yeah. And like I say, I only like those. I only watch those interview shows and participate in those shows where you can tell that the people making the thing, they just like it. Like, I like this thing. I remember when I first discovered it, it made me feel this way. And it's always threaded through my life. And, sometimes when I've been feeling blue, somebody picked up, here's the thing I like about comics, and it's because they work for me. Somebody picked up my King in Black Panther one-shot. And in that story, I have King T'Challa. There's a secondary story going on, not the one that you're seeing, but like a flashback type of story. And the idea is that the young T'Challa, when he was still a prince, he had to learn how to fight. And he got into it with some trainers, and his father finds him. He's like, what are you doing hiding out over here? And he's like, well, I have fight training today, and they really beat my ass, Dad. And he's like, well, okay, but why are you hiding out over here? And he's like, you don't understand. There was only supposed to be 2, I think. There were 5, and 2 of them were Jabari, and they had weapons. And he's like, his dad's like, and they cheated. They beat my ass. It was not fair. And his dad's basically like, oh, did someone give you a contract that said everything was meant to be? Right? He's like, but I am the prince. I can't be seen to be weak. I can't do all this stuff. Right? And he tells him the story about the Anansi drum, which you see in X-Force 2.
Yes.
Okay. And he says, Bass got trapped in that drum by her brother Anansi. It was made up of things, and she was too curious, and she touched it and got sucked into it, and it wrapped her up tight except for one claw. Right? And so she thought she would never get out, but when she realized thrashing and punching and all that wasn't working, she used that one claw, and she cut herself free of the drum. And he says, do you understand what that means? He says, right. No matter how small you are you weak? No. No matter how many tools you don't have, are you defenseless? No. Right? Who are you? I am Black Panther. Black Panther is Wakanda. And that's going on underneath the story you're seeing, where you see T'Challa do something like that in the present day. He sees his wife or his girl or whatever with Storm get absorbed by a monster, and everybody's like, where's your girl? She's like, I can't think about that right now. Right? We got to deal with this thing that's going to destroy our country first. Then I'll cry. Right? Right now, I can't deal with that. And one of the guys who reviewed it went, how many of you, I know, he said that touched him. And I was like, touched you? It's a freaking Black Panther versus some slime monsters. What are you talking about? Right? And he said, all of us have been through, especially young men at a certain age, have been through that thing where you got to go sit in the car and cry or whatever, because you cannot show that weakness to anyone outside you at this point in your life, because it will cost you more than it will make. It won't lift your burden. It will make your burden worse to show that. And he was like, that's the first time I've seen that in a comic book. And I was like, I wasn't even going for that. I mean, to me, this was just nature. But if you can write any comic book that touches one person that way, you did your job, right? But I don't think you can seek to do it. I don't think you can set out like, my goal is to touch 10 Black men and make them feel this way. Like, you can't do that. You just got to tell the story and let the audience tell you what you.
But at the same time, you get in touch with like one Black man, chances are you pretty much empathetically touched many others.
The audience decides is my point, I guess. That was the intent of that story, was to undercut what T'Challa was doing in the present day. It was not to make you feel some kind of way, good or bad, about your own life. I wasn't trying to do that. But the audience will tell you what you actually did, right? You can try anything you want, good or bad, but it's the audience who's going to say what the thing actually achieved, right? So the Marvels, there's a whole bunch of people who are really mad about black women and gay people and all this stuff talking smack about this movie. Don't go see it. Don't support this nonsense, right? But when you actually watch it, the vast majority of people who watched it were like, no, this is dope. I'm gonna watch this with my kids.
Including the pretentious people who claim that
exactly, the liars who watch it secretly and pretend they didn't.
Which is hilarious because it's now you got to dig your own grave or own up to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like that minority of people, also the minority of people will take it to the grave, and which is sad because it builds up. unless they're around a whole new group of people that you didn't reveal that to, and then you'll say that you loved it in front of them.
Yeah, those people are fine. You can tell them the truth. You can tell strangers the truth, right? But yeah, so I feel. But then y'all come
across that same group of people and like, wait, didn't you say that you didn't like it?
I don't know what you're talking about. No. I would make up a whole twin brother that told you all that. I don't know what
that was 616 version of me, and this is the ultimate version.
That's a Mandela effect. I don't know what you all are talking about. But you made it up in your heads. But yeah, so anyway, X-Force is. We just rambled all over the world.
Loved it.
Yeah, so X-Force and all of these comics are really just, for once in your life, you guys, everyone out here, including me, has a stressful life. We came out of that pandemic. We're dealing with this election. That lunatic is still too close to the presidency for my tastes, right? Like, way too close. And whether you're for him or against him, you're stressing out because they hate her, right? Like, oh, no. We won't get to be racist and misogynist like we really want to be. Damn, right? But it's stressful. What I'm trying to do is for the hour or 40 minutes or 25 minutes it takes you to read my comic, have some fun. Okay? Maybe you come out of it with better morals, but that's not my goal. My goal is for you to have some fun for however long it took you to read the comic. And Marcus's awesome artwork.
Fantastic. That's a great way to end this segment. Jeff, you're awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to even do this.
When that thing happens, hit me fast because people are going to want to talk about it.
I'm telling you, people, go back and watch and listen to every single interview that I've done with him. It always ends like this.
Because it's true.
It is damn sure true.
Always be grinding, baby. Always be grinding. Always be grinding.
And while you grinding, let us know right now where they can find you grinding and what projects that you're working on currently and you know whatnot and what to look out for.
You can find me at geoffreythorne.com is easy. I have a Patreon called Thorne Identity, and I have a YouTube called The Winterman Project where you can find the animation stuff that Dax was talking about. Easy to find. I'm on Blue Sky. None of y'all, you're all stupid and you're still on Twitter. You need to but,
Blue Sky's getting out there a little bit more.
Catching up. You just get on there. Everything's cool and you don't have any of the crazy people messing with you because it's easy to get rid of them.
I definitely may invest my time in there too.
Yeah. Come on over.
I got a Piglet. When I'm on X, it's like I'm not on there thoroughly because I still have, people that are on there that I network with.
Problem. That's how they get you.
Yeah, exactly. I have what I call a piglet complex, and I just hide behind the proverbial bushes.
Yeah.
And if I see somebody I know, I'm like, boom, in there, out, and then I go back to my other platform.
Yeah, man. Like I gave up 16,000 followers when I left.
I know.
I barely got 800 now. But
you know what? I appreciate. You know what I respect about that? Your morals.
Well, I just couldn't take it, dude. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
I know.
But the point being is, I'm out there. I'm easy to find. You can just put my name in a Google search and it'll hit you up.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there's some big stuff coming. There's some really big stuff coming. But the problem with these companies is they won't let us talk about it. So,
you know what? I ain't mad. You're not the first person who had an NDA, slapped on their mouth for a bit. So, but guess what? When it finally comes, you're excited, and that's what it's all about. We want to be excited.
I'm excited. I got two.
And I've been excited for you since the day that I met you, and I'm very grateful and appreciative.
I have one project. Both the projects are animation.
Okay.
Completely different kinds of animation.
Okay.
Completely different venues. But which people who like your show will be down for both of them.
So, looking forward to that. And definitely I will hit you back up and we will be right back in this platform.
Cool. Well, you're on my short list, man. All you got to do is ask. I'm in.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, folks, thank you so very much for taking the time to listen and talk to us, rant and rave about some of our favorite things and our favorite platforms and our favorite fandoms. And Jeff, thank you as always, man. You appreciate it, and keep doing what you're doing. And hopefully people that listen to this, especially people in our community, will be inspired by your road. And it is an awesome road.
Well, I'm
flowers
happy.
be given, brother.
Be happy. Try to be happy in life.
There you
Try to
go.
be happy in life. All right.
Folks, thank you for this very special edition of Talk Time Live exclusive. On behalf of myself and the one and only Geoff Thorne, all I gotta say is learn to let go, live life, love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care and keep supporting.